Welcome back to our third and last and very interesting session. Thank you for joining us for this session. We really appreciate your time. Let's introduce myself. My name is Clinton Windvogel. I'm the Learning Officer for CapeNature. What are we going to learn and what is CapeNature all about? CapeNature is a government organization that protects animals and plants in the Western Cape. I apologize for that. We will get the right slide up now. I apologize for that. Let's continue. As I said, CapeNature is a government organization that protects natural occurring plants and animals in the Western Cape. So what are we going to learn today? We are going to learn about plants and animals that we need to protect. And that in that way, we want to change your behavior. Just some house rules. You can say hi in the Q&A box. You can also say or raise your questions and requests in the Q&A box or in the chat box. And I would request that the video for speakers and presenters will be on. And if you have any other queries, you can direct it to learning@capenature.co.za. But that is not where the fun stops. We also have a spot prize session after this. So we will be handing out prizes for one lucky winner. Those will include a water bottle, recyclable straws, a stationery set, and a nice pen. And now, for the great moment, I would like to introduce Natasha Warnick, who is going to give us a presentation on worms on a mission, earthworms, and composting. Natasha, over to you.
Hi, good day, everybody. I'm Natasha, and I am from Momri. I just need to share my screen with you. There we go. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in this afternoon to this session called Worms on a Mission. And I know it's a very cold Thursday afternoon, but thank you, guys, that you are willing to sit in and to listen to my presentation. Okay. So this afternoon, we are going to look at this beautiful creatures that you see on my first slide. And I want you guys to look at the body of this beautiful creature called the earthworm. We don't see earthworms a lot because they hide under the soil and they love the dark places. So we don't see them often. But just look at the bodies and you can see basically right through the body of the earthworm. And the body is also like having a lot of segments. And very, very interesting, the earthworm, they don't have eyes and they don't have any ears. So I want you to just remember that while we're going through this whole session, please. Right, so next up, I want you guys to participate by just dropping some information in the chat boxes. And there's basically 4 things that I want you guys to share with me. Just look at the worms again, look at where they live, and look at the various body parts of the worm. So the first question basically is, earthworms move by. So you need to just, in the Dropbox, just tell me, earthworms moves by, and then the answer for me, please. The next one is, earthworms breathes through. Can anybody answer that for me? And then earthworms like. So what do earthworms like? And then the last one is earthworms eat. Okay, so you can put some information in the chat box there, and we will read them out later throughout the session. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, and just another picture of the body of the worm, and you can see the segments clearly there. You can also see the dark background. That is just to illustrate that they don't like the light, or they don't like to be in the sun or any light, so they love the dark places. Remember that, guys? Right, so anatomy of the earthworm. So this is basically the body of the worm, and you can see the various pictures there with the various parts of the body. So worms are invertebrates, which means they don't have any backbone. We as humans, we have a spine that keeps us upright, but earthworms, they don't have a backbone, so they wiggle and they crawl and they slide. So just remember the body again, all the segments in the worm, that is basically the way they move. The segments makes it possible for them to move along. Okay. And then again, earthworms, they don't have eyes or ears, but they breathe through their skin, which is very, very interesting. And you can see the earthworm has got a lot of segments, like I said, but also a moist skin. That means that moist skin should stay out of the sun, out of the light, and also in moist areas. Therefore, they love the moist, dark areas. And that's why we don't see them a lot. Okay. Then on the picture to the left, you will see a big part that stands out. I call it a little belt, the earthworm's belt, because you can see it clearly on the body of the earthworm. But this is basically called clitellum. And this is a place where the earthworm actually stores their eggs. So that's basically very important for reproduction purposes. So that is the part that stands out. It looks like a little belt around the earthworm's body, but it's called the clitellum. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at the food that the earthworms eat, and you will see a scale there, and you will see the equal distribution on the scale. On the one side, we have the earthworm, and on the other side, we have food. So earthworms can actually eat the same amount of food as their body weight, which is awesome, I think, for earthworms. And like the first presenter said, not so good for humans at all. Hey, ladies? Yeah, so we need, the earthworm loves food, but you will also learn very soon he doesn't like all kinds of food. So we will learn much more about that coming very, very soon. Okay, so there it is. Worms are able to eat their own weight in food every day, and they get most of the nutrients from bacteria, fungi, decaying roots and leaves, and protozoans. So worms need nutrients to survive. Okay, right, next up, earthworms loves our waste. So where does our waste come from? It comes from a lot of places, but the most common one is our kitchens, where we cook food every day. We need food, but also the animals, they need food. And where does our food end up? In the rubbish bin. And you can see that bin on my presentation is like so overloaded with a lot of things that the earthworm can actually enjoy. And earthworms also loves our apples. The rotten apple that we throw away is an apple away, keeps the worm okay. So they love these nice rotten apples that we throw away because they throw all the nutrients from the apple and various other waste material. Okay, so there is some foods that earthworms love and also some that earthworms hate. The same with us. Like my previous presenter said, if there were not a variety of food in our biodiversity cycles, we were only going to eat some broccoli. And who loves broccoli? I can just imagine. And I'm seeing comments coming through very, very soon about broccoli, eh, guys? Yes, so feeding your worms. Worms loves bread and cereal and coffee grounds and filters, tea bags, vegetables and leaves and grass, fruits and melons, and also cardboard as well. What they don't like is dairy products like milk and cheeses and things and yogurts. They also don't like meat or bones and feces and oil and junk food, which tells me that our worms is actually very healthy because they choose all the healthy food and they leave all the bad food. Okay, so we can learn something from these worms. Don't you guys think so? Okay, then there are also predators around. So these animals are also important. Remember the food chain. They are all very, very important. So worms becomes food to another animal. And earthworms really hide away from their predators. And remember, they don't have eyes, they don't have ears, so they need to now focus on the skin to help them to detect some animals or predators coming along. And because they are in the soil, we also find moles underneath the ground. So that becomes a very dangerous predator to the earthworm. But other animals that loves earthworms is also birds, foxes, hedgehogs, turtles, slugs, beetles, snakes, and all sorts of others, even ants as well. So they are all food. They are all predators that loves to eat earthworms. But remember, guys, we are in nature, so the one animal is dependent to survive on the other. So the more earthworms there is, the better for the other animal species as well. Don't you think nature is very, very cool? Can I get a hands up for that one? Okay, so next up, we're going to learn about something called vermicomposting. And this is actually where we all can get involved, not only us as kids, but we can bring in our parents, we can bring in our teachers or anybody in youth groups or just at home. Okay, so composting with worms is basically called vermicomposting. And vermi just means worm in Latin. So vermicomposting helps to reduce the amount of waste going to our landfill sites. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about landfills. So vermicomposting can be done inside or outside your home. And it can be odorless, which means there's no bad smells coming if it is done correctly. And I'm also going to show you the way to make the worm farm at home that is odorless. So you'll see the picture to the left. It looks like a cake with various layers. That is just a small bin that's used. And you will see your first layer will have, your base layer will have some branches and twigs and sticks. Then your second layer will have your leaves and paper, which is a brown layer. Then you'll have a green layer for grass clipping. So if your dad mowed the grass outside, you can just use the grass clippings. And then the next layer is also a brown layer again. And then important, your kitchen scraps. And remember, No milk, no yogurt, because the worms don't eat your dairy. So you need your vegetable peels, you need your tea bags, your coffee, your grains, and all those things in your green layer. Then again, on top of that one, you put the brown layer. So now you have all the various layers that is needed for your worm farm. And of course, if it is done in this way, don't worry because you won't have any odors. All right, remember, no one wants odors outside the house. So you want to make it perfect for everybody. Okay, so just something about landfill sites. So where does our rubbish go every week? We all know that the truck comes, collect the bins outside, and off the rubbish go. We don't care after that because that's not becoming our problem anymore, so it's gone. But all this rubbish goes to a place called a landfill site, which is a big hole in the ground where garbage is basically buried. So trash is crushed to make space. So you can just imagine all the bins going there every week, week after week, going to the landfill sites. And at the end of the day, at the landfill sites, the space gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay? So we can actually, from our side, we can start composting at home and composting again with your earthworms, making your own worm farm, throwing all your vegetable peels and things into the bin for the earthworms to eat. That is composting, and that will reduce all the rubbish going to the landfill sites. So when food is composted, it breaks down much faster and recycles itself into new life, which is amazing. Okay. Lots of the rubbish would lie in a landfill site for a long, long time, which is also a problem because of space. So doing composting at home is a great idea, and it is very, very easy, and everybody can get involved by doing it. Don't you guys agree? Hands up for that? Yes, so the natural cycle. What we want is the natural cycle to always be. We always want the natural cycle with sustainability. In other words, we want our beautiful trees. We want the earthworms to thrive. We want all the animals to be interdependent because it's the natural way. But we also want to make sure that we don't pollute and create too much pressures on our environment so that the natural cycle can continue. Okay. And very interesting is 90% of the things we use becomes waste. So basically that is a dead end. So you can see on the picture, there's a lot of things happening. There's factories, there's transport, there's heaps and heaps of sand and all sorts of material. There's the energy from the sun that's used. There's the clouds and there's the pollution. There's our waste from home. There's the waste from the factories. And there's also different kinds of pollution happening. Soil pollution and also air pollution. And those are the things that we don't want. We want to minimize these things, guys. And by doing our little bit, which is vermicomposting at home, we can reduce all the pressures on the beautiful earth. And remember what the previous guy said, there's only one earth, so we need to protect it. Okay, just another picture of what we really want to see. We want to see the earthworms doing their work in the soil. We want to see the trees growing beautifully so that they can provide us some shade. And then also you'll see some moisture there. And remember, earthworms, they need a little bit of moisture, but not too much. I saw somebody ask, does earthworms love water? Well, they like water, but not too much. Remember, even in your compost heap, you want water, but not too much. But I'll show you that also later. Okay, so just some steps again to make your compost heap. So there's 5 steps. So one is identify a place. The next one is add waste, and that is now your layered waste. Add just enough water. Remember, just enough and not too much. And then, of course, keep things moving. And the fifth part, which is very, very important, is be patient. Because if we're not patient, we might have a problem. Okay, so I'm going to break it down for you guys in steps again. So step one is find the perfect spot. And remember, earthworms, they love shade and dark and moist places. So please don't put your heap or your bin in the sun where the earthworms will dry out, because then they will die. So you must find a shady, dry, moistured place. Okay. And of course, the next one is you add your waste. So that's your browns and your greens and your food that needs to go into your worm farm. Okay, so this is all vermicomposting now. Then the other step, moist but not too wet, like a sponge effect. Okay, so you can see the effect. Not too much water, guys, otherwise our worms will drown because they can't swim and they don't like water. Okay, and then the next one is keep things moving. So turn the soil a little bit. So yeah, so that we will see the earthworms in the area. Okay, and no heat, dry and brown will of course be the way to go. Okay, and remember the patience part, because without patience, this farm will not be working. Okay, so earthworms are very, very good because of all the reasons that I just told you guys. They are very, very good for us and they help to reduce waste. Okay, and then just 3 important things to remember out of today's session. So earthworms are very good for the environment. And remember, we have one earth, so we want to protect it. Earthworms also help to reduce waste because of our landfill sites. We don't want our landfill sites to be too much waste, so we can actually reduce that. And lastly, earthworms help to make compost so that our plants can grow, so that we can also have beautiful plants and also vegetables and fresh vegetables to eat. And of course, full of nutrients so that we can stay healthy. Okay. All right, guys. So that is the end of my story. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that we will hear from you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Natasha. That was very interesting, and there's a lot of questions. Let me just quickly go through it. Are worms good for crops or bad?
Yes, of course they are very good for crops, because remember, they live in the soil, so they fertilize the soil. Okay.
Thank you. And do worms eat things that are not edible to us?
Not edible to us? Well, we can eat peels and vegetable peels and things. So remember what they eat, and they hate dairy products and they hate oils and all the bad foods. Remember, so they will eat all the organic foods, and we can also eat organic foods.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Like I said at the beginning, you can direct your questions to learning@capenature.co.za. But now we are going to have some fun. And now it's time to actually draw the prizes. And we've done a prize here, and the lucky winner is number 4. That is Elani Mitchells. Well done, Elani. Our staff will be in contact with you to hand over your prize. And thank you very much, audience. I would like to thank you. If there are, like I said, if there are any questions, you can direct them to learning at capenature.co.za. I would like to also thank the panel that assisted us. I would like to thank my supervisor and IT for making this a great session. And tomorrow we will have this fun again. We will then also have prizes. So tomorrow we are starting again at 1 o'clock. So thank you very much for all, and let's look after our earth and make sure that we are doing things that are good for Mother Earth. Thank you and goodbye.